You have walked into the panel called Creating an RPG Empire. If you're not in the right place, just stay here and hang out. It's going to be really fun. So I'm Danielle Beckmann. I'm an actress. I'm a filmmaker. I am the co-founder of Brooklyn Quarter. We're an independent production company, and I'm moderating, which is why I'm standing and not sitting. We have, obviously it goes without saying, we have some fantastic guests up here. But before we get into conversation, I just really want to address the SAG-AFTRA and WJ strikes. You know, everyone sitting up here is in solidarity with those unions. I am a SAG-AFTRA actress myself. I'm a member. And I have checked in with the union, as well as some of the properties up here, such as Faster Purple Worm Kill Kill. And we are all good to go to speak about our projects, for they are not associated with the AMPTP. So we just wanted to, yes, thank you. Yes, and we want a fair and better deal for our members. That's why we're striking. We wouldn't be striking if we didn't have to, so I appreciate that. Oh, thank you. There's also one other subject in particular related to publishing rights that happened a few months ago about one gaming title. We won't really be talking about that on this panel. If you know what I'm talking about, you know, but if you don't, that's cool too. All right, so let me introduce these glowing humans to my left. Right here, I'm married to him, so I'm a little biased.
Yes.
Toss. So he is a co-founder of Brooklyn Quarter. He is the game master of our tabletop show novel Chronicles. He's a filmmaker, ex-journalist, and three-time 3D printer owner. It's Timothy Reese.
Hello.
Awesome. Okay, so next we have, she is a TTRPG actor, live streamer, writer, content creator, appearing on many networks such as Dungeons & Dragons, World of Darkness, and the Glass Cannon Network. It's Noura Ibrahim. Awesome. We have found one of the founders of Beadle Grimm's. He is a screenwriter. He's also the host of the upcoming tabletop show game, Faster Purple Worm Kill Kill. It is Bill Rehor. He is an actor in many pop cultural hits you may have heard of. He is also one of the founders of Beadle Grimm's and producer and on Faster Purple Worm Kill Kill. It is Matthew Lillard. Give them what they want.
Get
awesome.
Used to it, everybody.
And then finally, last but certainly not least, we have screenwriter, game designer for Kobold Press, Draco Studios, Legendary Games, and many, many others. Some say he's an avid medieval historian and reenactor. We're going to get into that a little bit later. And some others might just say that he's a reluctant actor and producer, and others wonder why he seems so obsessed with mimics. It's Brian Suskind. Awesome. So the premise of this panel is the root of taking your hobby from the dining room table to the boardroom of your own business. And regardless of the type, a lot of challenges facing all small businesses are actually kind of the same. So today we're focusing on storytelling and entertainment and weaving those complex narratives of professional writers and actors, filmmakers, and how those skills of playing tabletop RPGs influence the decisions that we make as professionals. So let's dive right in. Awesome. All right, so really quick, gonna put everyone up here on the spot, lightning round, just kind of a little fun before we get to, you know, the really deep stuff.
Libra.
What are
Aquarius.
Pisces.
I was told there'd be no questions.
What is your rising sign? No. All right, so lightning round. What RPG class best describes your personality?
Oh, boy.
Go,
hurry.
I know which one I play the most, but I don't know if it's like, I don't know what it means.
Well, give us some of that.
I play a warlock like 90% of the time.
That
some
says
sort
something.
of like, or like a multi-class, but warlock in it. My whole thing is like, I don't want to like read books to make me teach magic. Like, I just want to have that ability from like a deity that.
So you're lazy, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Listen, if some other like higher power wants to just give me abilities and maybe we'll talk about the consequences of that on the back end, sign me up. I'm cool with that.
That's fair.
Fine.
It's like
Anyone
a
else?
contract class.
Yes,
Yeah.
basically. Read the fine print and you're fine.
Anyone else?
I like to think that it would be a wizard, something that I planned ahead, something that I actually have thought out. In reality, it's probably a sorcerer where I'm just winging it and hoping I don't die in the midst of whatever project, and that probably feels accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I play a lot of rogues because I'm not comfortable with other people. But
Aw.
yeah, maybe it just makes me sad rather than a rogue. But whatever, I'll go with it.
I would be a very charming bard.
Me too. That's mine.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I sing through life, you know.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably be some sort of like chaotic magic homebrew, a jester, if we're going to go way back to like second edition. Because, if I can control the Rod of Wonder, then things get really funny.
Yeah.
We're always throwing it back with Brian. I feel like that's going to be a really cool thing. You know what? I want to throw it over to the gentleman over at Beadle and Grimm's. I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with their beautiful items, and honestly, there's nothing like Beadle and Grimm's out there. You really have pioneered something, I think, in the category of like premium tabletop. And so, what was the first item that you wish that you had at a table that led you to the eventuality of Beadle and Grimm's?
Loaded dice. We have to do that.
I know. It's genius. I think definitely we came from the, all of us played as teenagers, and we started in the have more time than money kind of period of our lives where, we would be the people who would, burn the edges of our little, handwritten notes to hand out to our players and stuff. And so I've always had a love of immersive content, making the game more immersive for the players. And when I DM'd, I always felt like that was a big part of my role was figuring out ways of pulling people into the story and making it into a group storytelling experience by making them feel like they were really involved and invested in it. So I think that was a big part of what we were talking about early on.
Sure. I want to say, too, is the other three members of Beadle and Grimm's, there's 5 of us, are here. Charlie and John and Paul. Look, for us, it wasn't about a particular thing to put in a box. It was really about spending time together. The 5 of us have been playing together since we were 21. We're all well over 50. And so that camaraderie, that fellowship, and really being solidified in our lives in such a way that we were in relationships and have kids, and we were having a midlife crisis, and we were looking for something else to do with our life that brought us joy. And we banged around on a lot of different things, and then Bill came up with the idea one day that he literally said, everyone should come over. I have an idea. And his idea was, if you love music, you'll download the music, right? If you love Pearl Jam, I'll download Pearl Jam's new album. The next level of fan will buy the record because they like the liner notes and they like the photos. But the ultimate fan will buy the boxed edition. And so what we believe is that we are the ultimate edition for Dungeons & Dragons. Everything you could possibly want to immerse yourself in the game, we have the time and energy to build that for you. And to make your game better and make your DM better and make the experience better so that when you're sitting in fellowship, which I believe is the single best way to spend a life, that you're doing it in a way that elevates the game to give you that much more joy.
That's so awesome. And I love that you guys shout them out and also bring up relationships, right? And like that FaceTime and the importance of that. And I actually want to highlight Noura here because the way that I found out about Noura's work was through you all. And actually, Noura, you and I got to speak about, we had a great little Zoom, and we talked about how when we move through the world as our authentic selves, kind of opportunities seem to pop up. And this happened with you and Beadle and Grimm's, actually. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, and also just maybe sustaining those relationships in the TTRPG world?
Yeah, so just one of the ways in which I just personally grew in this space, I started with streaming, which I still do and I still love. But as I continued to stream and like meet all these new people, you realize you're not just like you doing this as a hobby. Like there's this great community, this like whole ecosystem that thrives like on this same passion that you have for this game. And that reflects itself in many different ways. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to start a stream and be on stream. It's not just a podcast. People are inspired to make dice. People are inspired to make box sets. People are inspired in so many ways by the same games that we love. And one of the things that I absolutely love when I personally play on stream or at a table is I love the immersion of it. And so I love props. I love being handed a piece of paper that's, when your mission is handed to you, when you receive a letter, it's there. And you can touch it and feel it, and it has that that feel to it. And I started, I met Matt through streaming, and through the years, I think you guys sent me a box, and I was just like, oh my God, not only did I just make a little video just to thank them and look at all this cool stuff that's in here, but I absolutely incorporated everything in that Curse of Strahd box into my every Curse of Strahd campaign that I played, because it was just so cool to just see it. And that kind of shifted what I did in this space to also include highlighting people in the community that make great products because they are themselves inspired by this thing that we share in common.
That's awesome. And you know what? One other thing that you and I spoke about was how TTRPGs helped you grow as a storyteller and a person as a whole. Yeah. And would you like to speak on that at all? I thought when we chatted, I loved what you had to say.
Sure. When I started playing, I grew up, I should say, my love for this came out of a love for theater and a love for acting. I grew up in theater and choir as a kid, and all through school and through my young adult years. And so when I started playing TTRPGs, it was that love for the role play. But the distinct difference that was so terrifying for me at first when I first started playing is I never did improv. And so I loved acting as a child because I, one, was very shy, and two, grew up in a household where we didn't really talk about our feelings, and so I didn't have that communication skill set. And the thing that I could definitively say that how TTRPGs and playing TTRPGs changed my life for the better is I learned to put words to my emotions, because the reason why I loved acting and doing theater as a kid is because I could finally show my emotions but using somebody else's words. Whereas now, it taught me how to put my own words to my own emotions. So it was life-changing for me. So I can definitively say that was a huge part, positive change in my life directly from playing these games.
That's really beautiful, Noura. Thank you for sharing that with this intimate room. Yes.
No, it's not familiar, but.
I want to touch on how you're talking about theater and acting, and we have a few actors on this panel. One in particular, Matthew.
Yes.
I understand that you have been playing D&D for a long, long time.
Long time.
And since we're very young, and you are a self-described expressionist, as I have seen out there. Did you develop a love for this kind of expressive storytelling and these kind of expressive characters in acting first, or D&D first?
Oh, no. I found acting because I sucked at everything else in the world.
So you tried everything.
Yeah, I was terrible at math. Look, I had a learning disability. I was obese. I had braces and glasses. my experience in a high school world wasn't great. And so when I found a space that I could be myself, be funny, I could be charming, and I was rewarded for that, and I could throw energy into acting and have adults see me and go, oh, that was good, it changed my life. My whole thing, and every time I get a chance to speak to people, is like, find what you love and chase the shit out of it, and you will find a way to make money. And that's what happened with me in acting. I didn't become an actor because, oh, I'll be famous. I became an actor because I had nothing else to hold on to. And so that's where I found my community, that's where I found my people, that's where I found my love. So for me, playing Dungeons and Dragons was early sort of addition of being an actor. But both have served me because both of them bring me an unbelievable amount of joy. And that to me is the best way to spend a life. Find something that makes you happy, and life is way better.
I love that. Have you workshopped any of your roles over dice around a dining room table?
No, not even a little. I mean, we play campaigns for 3 to 4 years, and like anyone else, it's a break for me. Look, being an actor in general sucks. You don't work that often. No. I've been really lucky, but you go through huge stretches of time when you're not working. You have to feed your kids and figure out how you're going to make shit work.
Have you thought about turning to screenwriting? Because
that's way better. I can't spell. I don't know if you heard the first part. I suck at things like no.
They have computers.
Yeah, I still suck at it. I'll still screw it up. But the idea of for me, it's a break. The idea of playing in your imagination, playing in these worlds is the furthest thing I want to deal with in terms of my acting career.
That's cool. Thank you for sharing that. And you know what, Brian? We're going to talk about writing now because everything's going great for writers right now. So, wink, wink. I want to talk about your degree for a second.
Oh,
so,
there we go.
You have a Bachelor of Arts Honors Medieval Studies.
Yes, I do.
And yeah, seriously, that does deserve some applause.
Really?
Whoa.
Wait, Noura
yeah, I'm
is
gonna point out
claiming
Noura
that
does
she
too.
has one as well.
I have a bachelor's in medieval history, yeah.
I'm not saying she copied me, but
Okay, we have 2 out of 5 medieval.
40% of the panel
that's right.
Yeah.
has even more useless degrees than mine.
Oh, also pre-med, which I did nothing with.
Hey, medieval studies prepares you for
Go on, we'll wait.
playing D&D, basically. Yeah, and writing, apparently.
Yeah, that brings me to my question.
one
So,
of those.
did you go into that program knowing sort of the path ahead of you as a writer, or was there another motivation altogether?
No, when I went to college, I've always written. Apparently, according to my parents, I taught myself to read when I was 3, and I always sort of was writing. And when I went to college, I thought, and creative writing, and I went to Brown and discovered that they mostly do language poetry, which if you've ever. I'm not knocking language poetry, but if you've ever experienced language poetry, it's you put random words together and the reader's supposed to draw their own meaning from it. And I thought, why? And they were really kind of down on speculative fiction, so no fantasy or sci-fi. And I went, okay, I can't do that. I got to do something else. And I was sitting in a science library reading. I was reading something in Old English, and I remember vividly sitting there thinking, it's about a king, and a guy takes over a kingdom, and he marries the daughter of the king, and she then hated him forever. And I thought, that's weird. And I realized I had missed a line. So he took over the kingdom, married the daughter of the king, and toasted her at their wedding with a cup made from the skull of her father. And I went, oh God, I'm studying that. I didn't really think about writing until after college, and I was working in TV production, and reading a lot of scripts and doing coverage, and went, I can write better than these people. And so I went to film school, And the game writing came later. So, the Middle Ages was always sort of a passion for me, but it wasn't, I didn't look at it going, this is my gateway. I'll go from, it's not like, step 1, medieval studies, step 3, writer. Like, what's step 2? I don't know, that's a little wiggly. But so, yeah, that wasn't the path, but it certainly served me well in various ways.
Awesome. So yeah, so you write for Kobold Press and among many other titles. And Timothy, you also write original fantasy stories for the show Novel Chronicles on our channel. And thank you.
Yeah.
And I would like to ask actually both of you in these, original worlds, and actually Noura as well. Are you in this space
In
as
the
well?
writing?
Yeah.
I just started dipping my toes.
Yeah.
I worked on the upcoming cyberpunk Danger Gal dossier book. So I don't know how much. I think probably these two are.
Okay. Well, I do have a question for you about
I
that
can
later.
jump in if but I don't know.
Maybe a toe, maybe a little toe.
I'll dip a toe into this conversation.
Yeah. So then for both of you, fantasy settings can be pretty complicated, as I'm sure you both know. So how would you, it's kind of a two-part question. How would you approach any sort of research when writing an adventure module, and also, what part of writing an adventure do you think would prove to be the hardest part? So I'll throw that to both of you, Popcorn, Brian, and Timothy.
So I do a lot of research. From a history, since I have a history sort of background, anytime I'm writing, well, anything really, from adventures to setting stuff to items to whatever, I always sort of go to history first. And I'll think what culture is closest to whatever I'm doing, and then I will delve into that culture and look for mythology or folklore, cultural stuff, and then try to adapt that to whatever it is I'm doing. But when I started with Kobold Press, this was even before it was Kobold Press, when it was still open design, Wolfgang Bauer taught us all, like, this number one rule when you're designing. And it applies to every single thing that you do for RPG design. And actually, a lot of it applied to a lot of screenwriting, as I've discovered. And I tell this to anybody who asks me advice, and I'll tell all of you. The number one rule is always ask yourself, where's the adventure? If you're writing something and you could spend 1,000 pages talking about the cultural fashion rules for whatever this culture is, but if it doesn't spur on adventure, then you're wasting your word count, because no one's going to take that and then make an adventure out of it or use that at their table. You can get a lot of mileage out of. I'm not knocking fashion, because I've gotten a lot of mileage out of various fashion things in adventure writing, but always look to where the adventure is. And like, the hardest part about adventure writing is probably the illusion of agency. When you're doing your home game, it doesn't matter. Usually it's your friends, so it doesn't matter at all. But players like to think that they are making choices and they are controlling things. But in a published adventure, you have to trick. It's not trick. You're casting an illusion over the whole thing, where they think they're making decisions, but really you're guiding them down a specific path, or several specific paths. But they need to think that they're the ones making the decision, or else they just think they're on the railroad, and it's like, oh, okay, the GM wants me to go over there. Fine, I'll go over there, fight the dragon. Yeah. But if they think it's their idea, they're much more invested in the story. And that's the hardest part about published writing, is you have to craft it so that they think that they're making decisions.
Yeah, that is tough. And as an ornery player, I have not listened to my DMs. I'm so sorry.
You don't have to, honestly.
like that
It's your game. Don't listen to your GM.
That technique needs a spoiler warning.
Timothy,
There's
what
an
about you?
illusion of control. Yeah.
Yeah, illusion of agency.
Yeah. For me, it's funny you talking about whenever, like, fashion, spending thousands of pages on fashion, because I think that for every writer, there's certain things that are going to interest you that other people are not going to be interested in. There's going to be minutia of details that you can drown others in. And for me, like, one of the things when I first started writing for our world, I would just write down any idea I possibly had in one giant Google Doc. And, like, I don't know if you're aware of this, Google Docs have a max limit for size. They eventually, yeah. And it's around 480 pages. with images.
Bro,
And-
what
Yeah.
are you doing?
I
was like,
not
like,
well.
gotta be like-
And you're married?
Yeah. Well, this was before the marriage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Before.
Now I understand.
What size font did you use?
Oh, it was like 11 Calibri.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah. I had a problem, and
The fact that you know.
what
There was a
happened?
pandemic. There was a pandemic.
Yeah, there was a pandemic, and so one of the things is that it was completely unstructured, and the idea of somebody else, because I had this thought, I was like, if I were to suddenly just die and someone discovered this, what would this be my legacy? Like, are they going to be like, oh, he was insane? That's what it was. Yeah.
Nobody's getting past page 5.
No.
Is that the theme of the 4,000 pages? 'Cause
There's
little dark.
There's a thing with whenever you are writing a story. What I did find was that for me, I have like certain anchors, which as long as I have those touch points in the story, I can write an infinite amount of narratives around it. And like one of them is economy. Right? For me, the economy, like I think about the world in terms of economic matters because I started off in like business news. And so the way I wrote my world was I was like, well, how does the money system work? What are the currencies? Who trades with who? What city has what? What do they need from their neighbors? And that's kind of how I fashioned out the world. But then I realized that if I did that and kept drawing circles slowly around these places where I had already planned out the economies, other things fell into place, like rivers and forests and mines and castles where they protected the resources. And then suddenly this amalgamation, this monstrosity of a Google document became a lot more coherent. And now you can read it. I can actually read it. And so, but yeah, for me, like the hardest part of turning that into a story that other people can consume is remembering that just the things that I like are not necessarily the things they like. And that's sometimes really hard to get yourself out of a narrative. Like when you read a story to someone and they completely gloss over the characters and they're like, there was a cat? There was a cat in the story, right? I heard a cat, It's like picking up on the things that other people draw out and then using that to structure something.
But those, like things like the economy, those are the layers that make a fantasy world feel real.
Yeah.
Because you can say, okay, I have city-states and I have a bunch of mercenaries fighting each other from the city-states. But if you don't think about, well, how do these city-states affording these mercenaries? Why do these city-states hate each other? And it's boiled down to the economy, like the
And that's
main
a
city-states in the
whole
15th
plot
century.
point right there. That's a whole plot point.
Yeah, and that's how you bring the adventure to something like economics.
Awesome. Yeah. I since we're talking about all these fantastic tabletop shows and tabletop gaming here today, Bill and Matt, I wanted to give you guys the floor for a second.
It's so exciting. It's so exciting.
Yeah. We need to
Finally,
hear
Matt
about
gets
this.
to
God.
talk.
Listen, I love economy. That shit is so sexy. Like when you have coins and stuff, that's cool.
We're going to have you guys walk out there Oprah style. Is that cool? No, just kidding.
I do it all the time.
So, yeah, no, as far as, I would love to ask you in a second, Timothy, about Novel Chronicles, but I would like to talk about Faster Purple Worm Kill Kill, because we have 3 of the cast members up here.
Okay,
So I'm so excited now. Just so everyone knows, so we've never one time ever announced anything about this. We've never talked about anything like this. So this is the first time we've ever talked about it. So
Yeah.
we're really excited. Yeah.
So, brief outline. So this is this is 20 episodes of a upcoming TV show that we shot with E1, which is part of Hasbro, which obviously owns Wizards of the Coast. So this is an official Dungeons and Dragons show. It is
Not under the SAG.
Yes,
under the SAG.
very clear.
We're
This
very
is
clear.
non-dramatic license. We are allowed to talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for understanding.
Sorry to just make sure we're clear there.
Yeah. Okay, so it is an hour-long show. Every show is a brave adventuring party of 4 characters,
All first level.
all first level, who set off on a heroic adventure.
They have the greatest dreams. They're reaching for the stars.
Did you want to?
I'm working with you, not against you.
I love it. All right. So we have these 4 adventurers with dreams and aspirations who go out on an epic adventure They are confronted by one of the most powerful creatures in D&D lore and are
Wiped out.
summarily destroyed.
Completely.
So every episode ends with a total party kill. No, I'm not kidding.
No.
And then next week we start with a new group of adventurers who
Hopes and dreams. Hopes and dreams.
who have hopes,
Hopes
and
and
dreams
dreams.
just like yours and mine.
It is. We've just gone through the 20th fine cut of the show. I will say, it is better than we ever could have dreamed. It is so good and so funny. It's an improv show. We pitched it like Whose Line Is It Anyways meets Dungeons and Dragons meets Tiamat. So it's really great. We have people like
Noura Ibrahim, who is in several episodes and absolutely kicks ass every time.
but Seth Green and
Patton Oswalt.
Jason Azevedo, who's here.
Yeah.
Patton Oswalt.
Some really, really wonderful people. We're very, very proud of it. So anyway, that was not the point of the conversation, the question. But okay, so yes, so we came up with this idea probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And it was really a reaction to, I think, I think when Critical Role became a huge success, there was a large movement of people in
Critical Role, by the way.
Yes. Amazing show. Amazing.
We love them.
And there was a large movement of people going into that space saying, I want to be the next Critical Role. And I think what sort of gradually became apparent is that there probably isn't a next Critical Role. Doing what they do is incredibly difficult. Doing a 3-hour story is really, really hard to pull off. It's really hard to get people to watch that, and you have to be very good at what you do. And so after this initial movement of everybody trying to kind of get into that space and realizing that it was going to be much more challenging than they thought, people started having to find their own paths, which is great, because now we have groups that are doing things that are very different and unique and personal, instead of everybody just trying to be the next thing. And so what we looked at was this challenge of a 3-hour narrative and saying, well, how can you have a Dungeons and Dragons experience that is told in a very brief, tight, digestible sort of format? And the obvious answer was kill everybody.
Legit.
So I mean, that really was the genesis of it, and we just thought it was a very funny idea, and we started putting this thing together as what we thought might just be a streaming show that we would do ourselves, and we brought it to WotC and
Wizards of the Coast.
More to talk to them about, whether or not this could be an official show. And it was fortuitous for us that they, with E1, were putting together this larger fast channel that's going to be a dedicated D&D channel, and we're looking to create live content and add live content to that product. So the timing just worked out extremely well for us. But the lesson for us out of that, and I know this is sort of a tired statement, but you never know when opportunities are going to come up. And if we hadn't been ready, if we hadn't been working on this idea and developing this project and fully fleshing out everything that we would want to do with it and why we thought it worked, and we had
tested it.
Yeah, and we had tested it in streaming shows, and we went and we did numerous live shows at a local bar in Burbank just for whoever wanted to show up, to make sure that it worked and make sure that when our opportunity came, we would be able to put our best foot forward. And so, yes, we were incredibly lucky that the opportunity came up when it did, and we really fit what they were looking for. But I am happy that the 5 of us put the work in advance so that we were ready for that opportunity when it came.
Yeah, and listen, I think that it's a love letter to Dungeons and Dragons players. I mean, it's the most diverse tables you'll find. I think that everyone's having fun. And what it is that's not about the mechanics, it's about the storytelling. And these characters are full of passion, and you're rooting for them, and they get annihilated. And we try to find these little gems of hope that come out of their annihilation, but every single show they're gonna die, and you're like, oh, that's gonna suck, but it's actually hilarious. And it's great, and I just think that we jumped in also. Listen, it's a streaming show. We didn't do it for the money. We did it for the brand. We did it because we were passionate about it. And again, I always go back to what are you passionate about? And this is something that we were super turned on by. And you are the first people to ever hear about the show. So we hope, listen, we hope that you find, it's going to be on D&D Adventures. It's coming soon. It's coming in September. Please find it. Please support it. Hopefully we get to do season after season because it's really fun. But thank you for asking.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, in the subsequent episodes, do you see signs of the people that came before? Like, well, there's Patton Oswalt's helmet,
Not yet, but now we're going to steal that idea.
Season 2, maybe.
Yeah.
We
We have talked about an idea of in season 2 having like the children of one of the parties that was wiped out try to go and avenge
This
them.
is how Dad went.
Yeah, it could.
Season 2, the purple worm
could
built a
add
collage.
Yeah, it adds an extra layer of sadness to the whole affair, I
Oh
think.
no.
It's all
You have the comedy, but you got
15 minutes. We're not leaving, goddammit.
Thank you, 15. Thank you. We got to see the finale episode. It was
Yes,
so.
thank you for
in
coming, by the way.
Yeah,
We're
we got to
really,
be in
really
the
happy you
studio,
were there.
so I'm very excited. Congratulations, you guys.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So, kind of actually on the other side of the coin, pun intended, D&D pun intended. Timothy, with Novel Chronicles in our independent production company, we basically do everything self-funded and with Patreon. And we also have one of those small but mighty tabletop shows, which I'm guessing a lot of people in this room might have. Bill was addressing that earlier, and the importance of that authenticity of kind of doing your own thing. For you, what are the strategies that you have used in approaching technical challenges without an enterprise budget? So, whether that be writing or literally buying lights or what.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I just want to do a poll here. Who here has had their own D&D show that they put on the internet? All right. Oh, great. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. And how many have had a podcast? Podcast, all right.
Very nice.
Right, very nice. Yeah. So when you see these shows on the internet, what you don't see is that they are incredibly complicated to put together. And one of the reasons why is that if you do a multi-camera show, everything you do is in multiples, right? If you're an independent filmmaker, you go out and you're like, I'm going to make a movie by myself. I'm going to buy one camera, one microphone, maybe I'll buy 2 microphones. If you do a tabletop show, you're like, I just got to buy, 8 cameras and 5 microphones, and now I've got to store all the footage, and now I've got to have lighting, and I've got to find a room that'll hold that many people that has air conditioning, because that is very important. And we've been making our own independent tabletop shows since 2017, and one of our shows, we did 135 episodes on live. Our new show, we've released 10 episodes of that. And I've met so many creators who want to make their own content. They're like, I want to make a podcast. I want to have my friends gather around, and I want to put it out on the internet. And it sometimes looks like an impossible hill to climb once you start doing it. Because you do the research online, you're like, oh, I cannot afford any of this. Because when you're self-funded, you're coming at it independently. And one of the things that became very apparent after I want to say our 6th episode of our live show was that the actual technical production matters very little. It really comes down to the dynamics of the people at the table and the story. And it's really fascinating that there are entire subreddits dedicated to producing these multi-camera shows, and very few of them talk about the fundamentals of just good storytelling in projects. And so early on, I became obsessed with like whatever tiny camera model that I could have in a room that had a clean HDMI for like 4 hours of recording. And then I was creating these shows and like no one was watching because it was 4 hours of unedited content with a bad story. And so I think that the thing that I've now shifted to is find a good dynamic, find great camaraderie with the people, and then just really focus on that performance in a thing that I find that like the least cringe possible, right? If there's any cringe that goes off on something you've made, just edit it out. That's kind of like, that's the thing I now use as my guiding principle.
That razor tool.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's your
Yeah.
friend. No, that's awesome. Noura, I want to jump to you. So you are this multi-hyphenate creator, actor, writer, etc., content creator, RPG performer. So one of the things that I know that you've been embarking on is writing safety tools in the beginning of certain TTRPG books. I would love to know if you could, speak to that a little bit, and also, in general, what it means to be more welcoming and inclusive in the TTRPG space.
Sure. So I have written a intro into how to create or how to use safety tools effectively at your table, whether you're streaming and whether it's just, yourselves and your friends in your living room. Safety tools are essentially what little guidelines just to just respect each other as people and as friends. Like, you're not gonna obviously be a jerk to your friend unless it's Bill, but
Seems legit.
you
World of fair.
a lot of times you can kind of get lost in your role play, and you might end up crossing a line or hurting somebody's feelings or doing things inadvertently. And so I wrote for this intro for the Hellguard TTRPG that's out sometime this summer, I believe. And these are available online, by the way, for free. So if you wanted to look them up, but it's important to, when you are getting deep into role play, which I definitely do, you can get so immersed into the world that you're in and the character that you're in that sometimes you forget that you are also sitting here with this person, that they are playing a character, but they're also this person that has feelings. And which is called Bleed. I don't know if anybody, how much of it that you know or your experience with it, but just things that allow the people at your table to feel safe. And this isn't just, even for people where these things like maybe certain topics that make you uncomfortable, maybe they'll never ever come up in your game. But the fact that you can sit around before you ever play one game together and say, hey, let me know what makes you feel uncomfortable. Let me know what's a line that's not okay to cross. Just having that conversation makes such a big difference in like how open people will feel at your table and comfortable. And it's important. And it's the more that people can feel included and safe in the space, the more we're able to have fun and have this whole community grow.
I love that, yes.
Noura actually, in addition to being on Faster Purple Worm, also filled that role for us for our casts for that show and was awfully good at it. So thank you for doing that, Noura.
She's one of our producers.
Yay, that's fantastic. Okay, I want to throw out, because we got our time guy over here
This
telling us
guy.
to get on
This guy.
stage. This guy.
Every party has a pooper, dude.
Just doing his job and doing a great job at that. I'm going to throw out one question to everyone, popcorn anyone on the panel, as our final question. If you had to restart your path in this hobby of RPGs today, what advice would you give yourself knowing what you've learned on your path already?
What age are we starting at?
Day one.
Oh, okay.
Honestly,
I would
anyone.
befriend a bigger celebrity.
Zoinks. Why are you laughing at him?
I don't know. That's hard to say because, like, part of growing and figuring out what you want to do is, like, you kind of have to stumble a little bit and kind of figure it out as you go along to know what's important to you and to know what's driving you. So I don't know that I would change anything as challenging as some parts may seem. I think part of it's kind of necessary in order to grow, as cheesy as that's kind of sounds.
That's not cheesy at all. I enjoy that.
Yeah, I was going to say, there is definitely part of me that just wishes I had gotten into this a lot sooner because I'm so close to death and I'm not going to get a lot of opportunity to enjoy this. But
Like what, 12?
I don't think I was ready for it any earlier than this, and so I think it happened when the five of us were ready for it to happen. So I don't think I could change that if I wanted to, sadly.
I mean, for me, I think I would have played a lot less Dragon Age and Fallout because I think I would have gotten a lot more writing done. But I think, I mean, it's hard. Being a freelance writer isn't exactly the easiest thing in the world because you sit down at your computer and there's a lot of distractions in your own home because you're like, oh, I could catch up on my streaming or play with the dog or, I don't know, spend time with kids. But I think that if I had to do it all over again, no, I think I probably would have done the same thing. I would have written, because I've always have, but I might have skipped a couple of video games in order to get a little bit more work done.
Okay, so time management, I hear.
I do think maybe I can definitely think of a few games where I wish I knew about safety tools beforehand going in because it did cause a lot of tension in some of the games. And had I known about that, maybe there would have been a better way to address that situation. But
Yeah,
at the same time, now I know how important they are. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think I would have asked for help in the projects I was working on faster. For some reason, when I first started, I really wanted to prove that I could do it myself, and I didn't know I was doing that, and I had this realization that I kept running into these impossible challenges, and the second I just started asking people I knew, they just melted away, and they could have always been melting away, and I feel like that would have just set me forward like several years of effort if I had just asked for help.
Yeah, I think the business community in this space is remarkably supportive and collaborative. And boy, if you just work hard and be nice, and people will gravitate to you, they will help you, they will support you, they will come along on your journey with you. Just be nice.
Oh, I thought of one. I think I would have tried to be less afraid. I think you get started, when you're first starting out, you're like, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I don't want to talk to, so-and-so, or I don't want to talk to this designer, or I don't want to talk to the head of this company or whatever. And I think if you got to it's easy to say, just don't do that. But if you can summon up the wherewithal to just talk to people, I think, echoing Bill, that people in this industry are, by and large, really nice and they're so passionate about what they're doing, and if you're passionate about what you're doing, they're happy to talk to you. And I think you get a lot further than you are just being afraid.
Listen, it doesn't do you any good to live in fear. If you have shit inside you that you want to do, jump. Like, what happens? You fail. So what? Get up, do it again. It's like ridiculous to live in fear. Do not spend the rest of your life going, I really want to do something. Just do it. Like, there's nothing bad that can happen. Yes, you may fail. You will just start over and do something else. Like, just follow passion. Just jump, and shit will happen. It will.
I mean, unless you're like lion taming, because I think then...
No, you learn very quickly when things go bad.
Or you don't have to worry about it anymore, I guess.
Yeah, you lose one appendage, you know.
You have two
from that
arms.
lion.
Fast lesson.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's an amazing, amazing spot to end. Thank you all for coming. This was Creating an RPG
Thank you,
Empire.
everybody.
Thank you, our
Thank you,
panelists.
everybody.